When my parents died last year, I moved into their old cabin to sort through their belongings. The place sits deep in the Oregon woods. No neighbors, no phone signal, and barely any light once the sun goes down. It used to be peaceful when I was a kid. Now it just feels wrong. The first few days were fine. I spent them cleaning out the attic and burning old papers Mom insisted no one should ever read. But on the fourth night, while I was sorting through an old box of VHS tapes, I found something that didn't belong. A small black cassette with no label, only a strip of masking tape that read, "Do not play." You can probably guess what I did next. The cabin's TV was ancient, but the VCR still worked. As soon as I pushed the tape in, static filled the screen. Loud, distorted, almost painful. I was about to eject it when I heard something beneath the noise. A voice. At first, I couldn't make out the words, but after turning the volume up, I heard a faint whisper. "Don't look at the door." I froze. My eyes shot toward the cabin door, which was wide open. I didn't remember leaving it like that. I walked over, shut it, and tried to laugh it off. Probably an old recording from some prank or art project, I thought. But when I turned back to the TV, the static had changed. Now there was a shadow, tall, featureless, standing in the center of the screen. It wasn't moving, just there. I ejected the tape and turned the TV off. The screen flickered once more before going completely dark. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every few minutes, I thought I heard a faint hiss of static again. Not from the TV, but from the radio in the kitchen. I unplugged it, but the sound didn't stop. It was coming from inside the walls. By the next morning, I was ready to leave. I packed some clothes, grabbed the car keys, and stepped outside. But when I opened the door, I saw something lying on the porch. A new cassette. Same handwriting. This one read, "Listen before you leave." I don't know why, but I brought it inside. Maybe curiosity, maybe fear. I played it, and again, static. But this time, the voice was clearer. "You can't leave. You saw it." I stopped the tape, turned everything off, and ran to my car. But when I got inside, the radio clicked on by itself. Through the white noise, that same whisper came through again, calm, patient, almost kind. "Look in the rear-view mirror." My breath caught. In the reflection, I saw someone sitting in the back seat. No face, just a black silhouette shifting like smoke. I jumped out and slammed the door, but there was no one inside. I didn't even hear the door open. I drove to the nearest motel that night. Didn't sleep, didn't eat, just sat there, trying to convince myself it was all some kind of hallucination brought on by stress. But when I checked my bag the next morning, my stomach dropped. Inside the side pocket was another cassette. No label, just that same handwriting again. "You brought it with you." I left everything behind that day. Car, clothes, tapes. I hitched a ride into the next town and stayed with a friend. I thought it was over. But 3 nights ago, she asked me something that froze my blood. She said she was woken by static coming from my phone and a whispering voice asking me by name. "Tell him to look at the door. I checked the phone history. No calls, no audio files, nothing. I even threw away the phone. But last night, I heard it again. While brushing my teeth, I noticed a faint white noise coming from the bathroom vent. The air felt charged, like during a thunderstorm. Then the whisper returned, this time from right behind me. You shouldn't have played the first one. I turned around, but no one was there. Just the faint outline of my reflection in the fogged mirror. Only it wasn't perfectly still. My reflection moved a fraction of a second slower than I did. I smashed the mirror and ran outside. The forest was dead silent. No crickets, no wind, just the faint sound of static humming somewhere in the trees. It thinks it's waiting for me to listen again. If you ever find an unmarked tape, don't play it. And if you already have, check your door. If this story gave you chills, make sure to hit subscribe, because the next one comes from a real voicemail that was never meant to be heard. And it's even darker.
I moved into a small apartment downtown last spring. It was nothing special. Cheap, quiet, close to work. The landlord told me there was only one other tenant in the building, a woman who lived in the unit above mine. For the first 2 weeks, everything was peaceful. Occasionally, I'd hear footsteps at night or a door creaking upstairs, but nothing unusual. That changed on the 15th night. I woke around 3 a.m. to the faint sound of humming, a low, tuneless melody that came through the ceiling. It wasn't loud, but something about it made my skin crawl. I tried to ignore it and went back to sleep. The next morning, I ran into the landlord while leaving for work and casually mentioned the humming. He frowned and said, "That's strange. The woman upstairs moved out last month." I thought he was joking, but his expression didn't change. He even pulled out the keys and said the unit was empty. I laughed it off, assuming maybe he meant she was going to move, not that she already had. But that night, the humming came back, louder this time. I went upstairs to check. The door to the apartment was locked, but I could hear movement inside, slow footsteps, dragging across the floor. I knocked. No answer. Then the sound stopped completely. The next day, I convinced the landlord to open the unit with me there. The place was bare. No furniture, no boxes, just dust. But when I walked toward the back wall, I noticed faint scratch marks on the floorboards, like something heavy had been dragged in circles. I didn't say anything. He locked up again and left. That night, the humming returned, only now it wasn't above me. It was in the hallway. It moved slowly from door to door, pausing right outside mine. Then, soft knocking. 3 times. Knock. Knock. Knock.
I didn't move. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like the sound filled the room. The knocking stopped. After a few seconds of silence, I heard a whisper right next to the door. "Are you awake?" I didn't respond. I didn't even breathe. Eventually, the hallway fell silent again. By morning, I'd convinced myself it had to be some kind of prank. Maybe the landlord had someone checking the place. Maybe I was half asleep and imagining it. But that day, something new happened. The humming started while I was home from work. It was 5 p.m., bright daylight, and it was coming through the vents. I pressed my ear against one, and I swear I heard breathing on the other side. I left the apartment that night and checked into a motel. When I returned 2 days later to grab my things, The door was already unlocked. Inside, everything looked untouched, except my bedroom mirror. There was a message written across it in dust, like a finger had traced the words, "I missed your humming." I packed my bags and left immediately. The landlord called a few days later asking if I'd forgotten anything. I told him no, but he sounded confused. He said someone came by asking for me, a woman. She said she lived upstairs and needed to return a key. But the top floor is still vacant. I drove past last week to check. Every window was dark, except one. The curtain was slightly open, and I swear I saw someone standing there, not moving, just watching. If you ever hear humming where there shouldn't be any, don't listen. It's not trying to scare you. It just wants you to hum back. If that one made your skin crawl, you'll want to stay for the next story. It's about a door that opens only when you're asleep. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're still brave enough to keep watching.
Last December, I installed a cheap home security camera. I live alone, and after a few strange noises in the hallway at night, I wanted peace of mind. It came with an app that sent motion alerts to my phone. Nothing fancy. The first few days, it worked perfectly. I'd check it at work, see my empty living room, sometimes my cat jumping on the couch. Normal. But one morning, I woke up to a notification at 3:11 a.m. The app said, "Motion detected." I opened the feed, expecting maybe the cat again. Instead, I saw myself. I was standing in the kitchen, facing the camera, but I was asleep in bed when this was recorded. The figure looked exactly like me. Same pajamas, same posture, just standing there, motionless, for over a minute, before slowly turning toward the hallway. The timestamp was real. I even checked the app history. There was no one in my house. The next night, I left all the lights on and set up my phone to record both the live feed and my bedroom door. Nothing happened. But when I checked the footage the following morning, there was another alert. Same time, 3:11 a.m. This time, the figure wasn't in the kitchen. It was sitting on the couch, head tilted, watching the hallway that led to my room. I tried to convince myself it was a glitch, maybe an old frame replaying, something corrupted. But when I compared the time codes side by side, there was one disturbing detail. In the second clip, a picture on the wall behind the couch had fallen. In real life, it really was on the floor. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up, staring at the app, waiting for the motion alert. At exactly 3:11, the feed froze.
Then a single frame appeared, a close-up of my front door. The figure was standing in front of it, facing the camera. My reflection appeared faintly in the peephole, but this time I noticed something new. There was someone behind me. I don't remember much after that. I woke up on the couch around 5 a.m., phone on the floor, the front door slightly open. The security feed was gone, deleted from the cloud, wiped from my phone. I called tech support for the camera company, desperate to understand what happened. The guy on the line went silent after checking my account. Then he asked, "Sir, you said you live alone." I said yes. He hesitated, then said, "Our system shows 2 devices streaming from your address." I asked him what that meant. He didn't answer. He just ended the call. A few days later, I got a new notification, but from a different phone. It was a shared access request to the camera. The name on it was mine. I threw the device away that night, smashed it into pieces, and deleted the app. But sometimes at 3:11 a.m., my phone lights up with a push notification. Motion detected. When I open it, there's no app installed, just a blank screen and faint breathing through the speaker. If you ever set up a home camera, don't point it at yourself. You might not like who's watching from the other side. That story still makes my skin crawl every time I check my phone at night. Which one of these paranormal encounters chilled you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you're still here, hit that like button and subscribe before your next notification goes off.